Terry Doran, and I didn't know, I thought I knew him. We had, he worked at IPFW and we were out there like 50 years ago. So we took him for a ride. This lady brought him out. She said he really can't walk, so you have to bring the chair right up to him. So we did. So we rode down Cookie Cottage. We had a great conversation. He's been to a lot of cities we've been to. He's a great guy. We shared IPFW stories, travel stories, kids stories. And then we got him back, and so my husband went to drive the bike up to the car door because he can't walk. And so he said, when we got up there, will you take me for a walk? So Paul said, yeah. So he started walking down the parking lot, and the lady that I was with that had brought him there said, but he can't walk. I said, well, he's walking. And so we talked for a little bit because I used to work with her. And then she said, where's Terry? Where's Terry? He can't walk. I said, well, he's out walking with Paul. Well, he can't walk. And I said, well, they're all out. So then I thought, finally, after a while, that maybe Paul was resuscitating him somewhere because it had been a while. And pretty soon they came walking up the parking lot, and he was carrying his cane. And this Carla that he was with said, he's carrying his cane. He's carrying his cane. He can walk. And I think it was just the fresh air, the conversation, the cookies with him that just brightened his life. Otherwise, he's kind of stuck in his house. And I think he enjoyed it as much as we did. So we've kind of befriended him and taken him every couple of weeks. We've gone out to lunch, and we've just enjoyed Terry. He's a great guy. So he's going to talk to you next.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay, so we're going to do it a little bit differently this year. We're going to kind of do an interview style. So I'm going to ask Terry some different questions, and he's going to share his responses with us all.
Jane just used all my material.
He says Jane used all of his material. So, okay, Terry, tell us a little bit about your prior hobbies and anything that you wish to share in regard to your disability.
Well, I kept this short, but basically, I used to run on the Puffer Belly Trail and enjoyed it immensely. And if I wasn't running on it, I was inside the Y doing a treadmill. Then I took a heart treadmill. This was 2017 before I needed a wheelchair. And did really well on that, said I got a high score. Before all that, I won a tennis tournament. One of my only athletic glories. And then as a filmmaker, I traveled to South America, walked on the Nazca lines. You may have heard of that. The famous geometric and animal figures in a big, giant desert area. Went to Cuba with Isabel Alvarez. Probably some of you know her. She played for the Fort Wayne Daisies. Came from her native Cuba when she was a little girl. I went to Australia, frolicked with kangaroos, met the Dalai Lama. But my biggest documentary, in more ways than one, was the big turtle Cherubusco. You all familiar? Yeah. You all familiar with Oscar? You cannot compete with that turtle, I'll tell you.
Dalai Lama ain't got nothing on that turtle.
But I'm very taken with Oscar because he won me a free trip to Hollywood to show my movie, and that was a great thrill. And then some of the bad things that's happened to me, I had a heart attack. Actually, when I was making Oscar, that was followed by open heart surgery. I'm told that none of that has anything to do with my current condition, that my heart is healthy. Well, maybe one of the few things. Also, I like to say, well, I'm now confined to not confined, but I use a wheelchair when I can. And broke my elbow, had emergency hernia surgery. I told Paul as I was reciting all this, it's a wonder I'm here alive after all this stuff. So the point of all this is to show what the Trail Buddies has meant to me, that I was at the point where I felt like a burden to everybody. I felt like I was a prisoner in my own house. After doing all these strenuous things that I've mentioned, my travels now are confined to my bedroom in a walker, to my bathroom, to my kitchen. That's about it. So it's a big mental adjustment. And this is what Trail Buddies helps with, is this adjustment. Because you sit in your house and you feel like, who cares about me? You know, I'm getting old, I got all these problems. And I read about Trail Buddies, and my friend Carla, who I think Jane mentioned, she was the one that was worried about me. She's a great friend. She's a member of the Y, and she said, oh, I read about this Trail Buddy program. Would you like to go? I had heard of it, and I didn't have any way to get there, so I said, yes. Oh my gosh. So we went, and it turns out we had to have 2 volunteers. It wasn't enough that I just showed up, you know, like the bike magically goes down the trail. And then at the last minute, Jane and Paul volunteered. Never met them, and in that hour on that bike, the fresh air, the camaraderie, the getting out of the house. You know, when you're getting out of the house is confined to doctor visits, and I do a program at Promenade Park that I'll invite you all to. It will be this spring, called River Drums. I go to meetings for that, but this, I'm talking fun now, the Trail Buddies. I don't have to do anything. They actually get me in that bicycle in the front. I do not pedal it. Paul pedals and Jane rides a regular bike. She's what they call the spotter, and does a great job. And Paul and the thing and the talk. You know, I never envisioned or imagined the talk on the Trail Buddies. I just thought, oh, the bike, the fresh air. Oh my gosh, we just talked about so many different things. And as Jane said, we've been good friends ever since. You have her to thank for making me look, I won't say good, but better. They took me and got me a haircut, so thank you for that. So this is what Trail Buddies, it brings people together. It you know, I have another lady that I did shows with, a documentary called Virginia Schrantz. Anybody heard of her? She's a retired nurse. She died in 1998. That woman opened her home and her heart to anyone. I mean, there's no papers to sign, no applying. Just open it up, and if she had food in her cupboard, space in her house, you were welcome. And now they have the Miss Virginia Food Pantry, and she's always been an inspiration. And she told me that sharing is the essence of peace. Peace is what we all want, and what is sharing is Trail Buddies, resources, conversation, stories, good and bad, experiences. That's what Trail Buddies is. And that's what in one ride, now I think we've taken about 5. And they've all been stimulating, and it just makes me feel like, well, maybe I still got some worth left, you know? And Rebecca asked, how does this benefit the volunteers? Well, the volunteers, what I've learned is they're as inspired by making me feel good, I hope, as I am of them making me feel good. So that's the two-way, what you get from volunteering. Miss Virginia said, you know, if you open your cupboard you share what you have, a lot or a little, you'll feel better about yourself. That's the message of Trail Buddies. And the last week that, one of the last weeks they took people, I was so taken by this. I didn't realize they took other people too, but it's all right. They should benefit too. One was a 94-year-old lady who drove to the Y herself, and then I think the young lady that was recognized tonight. And I thought, and here's an older lady, a young girl, and what do they have in common? Smiles. Smiles. What do I have in common with them? Smiles. And I think that is what Trail Buddies is about. I end with this, that the message of Trail Buddies is everybody has worth. Everybody has value. Period. Whether you're in a wheelchair, whether you have physical challenges, everybody has worth, no questions asked. That is community, involving everybody. And that's revealed by Trail Buddies.
He says, and I do good. That was a season for picking up when I was out and just being such incredible volunteers and riders. It really feels like you guys are like an extension of my family and like aunts and uncles and grandparents and friends. So thank you so much for such a great season. We are going to, I'll just give everyone kind of a few minutes here. If you can kind of make your way to the front, we're going to get a group photo. And then we'll also get a photo with all of the award recipients from the Steve Reith Miller Award after that. There are also, thank you so much to our amazing volunteer, Regina. She put all of the plates, combined them all together. There are some leftover plates.
Grab the wheelchair.
Guys at the end, go ahead and scoot in a little bit. Yep. All right. Oh, that's fine, she says. All right. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Let me see.
Gordon, why are you over here?
Gordon, come on!
Yeah, Jane, get in the picture.